Beating a Zelda game once is one thing, but how many of these are actually fun to play again? Today, I'm ranking every single Zelda game from the most replayable adventures to the ones I'll probably never touch again. Now, this list is totally subjective, and it's not a ranking of my favorite Zelda games, just rather how they hold up for me when it comes to replay value. For me, replayability comes down to things like variety in gameplay, secrets and exploration, strong story and atmosphere, pacing and length, nostalgia, how well the game aged, and of course, the dungeons. Let's get into it. Starting the list off with the one Zelda game that I told myself I wasn't going to play again after I beat it the first time, until I had to. Zelda 2 is the oddball of the series, with side-scrolling and grueling difficulty sometimes. I guess one of the replayability strengths of this game is how damn satisfying it is once you finally understand the combat. However, its huge weakness is how freaking difficult the game is. When you run out of lives, you have to restart all the way back to the beginning. Explain to me how that's enjoyable. The world is extremely boring with enemy pop out after pop out. On top of that, this is a game that basically requires you to grind XP in order to have a chance at some of the dungeons. I respect Zelda 2 for how different it is and the challenge it offers, but it really is just a test of patience rather than pure fun, and you would have to give me a damn good reason to replay it again, and that's why it lands at the bottom of the list. Four Swords is a Game Boy Advance multiplayer adventure, originally bundled with A Link to the Past. I'd imagine if you're playing this game with friends, then it is a bit more replayable, with quick and unique challenges. The levels are also randomized, which I guess adds a bit to the replayability if you want to go through every level option. However, if you play the single player Anniversary Edition, it's extremely short and was a game that was really just made for multiplayer only. So if you play solo, don't expect to come back to this game. Of course, new levels open once you do beat the game, but obtaining the keys consists of constant rupee grinding, which is not enjoyable at all. I would put this game last, since really no one plays this game and it wasn't meant to be replayed much, but is a lot less frustrating than Zelda 2, so I guess that's why it lands at 20. Four Swords Adventures is a chaotic GameCube exclusive that takes four swords to another level. For a multiplayer focused game, it's extremely single player friendly. The only issue is, it's not very fun to play single player. There was no level in this game that made me think, wow, I need to play that again. The dungeons aren't great, and honestly, when you play this game solo, nothing really stands out as particularly fun. I don't think this is a game that is really built to be replayed solo, but I can only imagine how much fun this game would be multiplayer. Because this game had great single player controls and a full-fledged game compared to Four Swords, it's sitting at 19. Yet another multiplayer focused game, this time exclusively on the 3DS. Triforce Heroes is what I consider the most fun multiplayer Zelda game. No, it's not as optimized for single player compared to Four Swords Adventures, but overall the levels were more fun. The single player controls in some levels kill all replayability for me though. Some levels are just extremely unfair when playing solo due to the controls and having to control each link at once. Because this is a level-based game, the dungeons aren't really considered dungeons, which is what I consider one of the biggest factors of replayability. I had a bit more fun playing Triforce Heroes over Four Swords Adventures, but this is also really a one and done type game for me. In this multiplayer Zelda, just kidding. Spirit Tracks features train travel by guiding Link by train through Hyrule and battling on the go. I actually preferred Spirit Tracks over Phantom Hourglass. It was actually not a bad game at all. I consider this game to be one of the most underrated Zelda games. However, the controls alone kill all replayability for me. This is especially prevalent using the flute in this game, which is one of the most tedious things to do in the entire series. You need to be very accurate with your notes apparently. Aside from the stupid flute, it's very common for the stylus to not register sword slashes, at least on the Wii U version that is. The dungeons were completely forgettable to add insult to injury, and the train overworld actually limits the freedom and makes repeated plays less fun. I recently replayed Spirit Tracks and actually enjoyed it a lot more than I did previously. However, the controls and flute make this game not very replayable. The other DS entry, continuing Wind Waker's story. This game didn't have the stupid flute, which made the game a bit more bearable to replay over Spirit Tracks. I also do enjoy the overworld a bit more over the Spirit Tracks overworld, but the dungeons are even more forgettable in this game. On top of that, you have to continue to repeat the Temple of Ocean King, which is a huge reason why so many people haven't beaten this game in the first place. The Temple of the Ocean King and the dungeons in general in this game don't make this a replayable game, but it has slightly less tedious use of the microphone as opposed to Spirit Tracks, which is why it sits at 16. Oracle of Ages focuses more on puzzles and time travel mechanics. Challenging dungeons and clever time-based puzzles, especially in the Mermaid's Cave dungeon, make replays satisfying. I especially like the use of the time travel mechanic in this game since it's used so damn often as opposed to an Ocarina of Time. This game has a bit slower pacing, which can feel tedious at times, as well as probably the most annoying water dungeon in the series, Jabu Jabu's Belly. On top of that, it has some of the most annoying mandatory minigames, like the Dancing Goron minigame, which makes me not want to play this game again. It's a shame because I actually preferred Oracle of Ages over Seasons, but it had much more tedious segments for me to replay often. If I could replay it without having to do the minigames, then it would be so much higher from the dungeons alone. Oracle of Seasons emphasizes combat and a very unique seasonal change mechanic. The seasonal change mechanic was actually one of my favorite Zelda mechanics, and I would especially like to go back to this game to choose a different companion from the 3 given. This game was actually surprisingly hard, especially the final boss, which honestly kills a bit of replayability for me. I preferred the puzzle nature of the dungeons like in Oracle of Ages compared to the Seasons combat nature dungeons, and none of this game really stuck out to me too much. It was a fun game with a really cool mechanic, but not one that I'd replay often. Minish Cap allows Link to shrink to explore hidden areas in a very charming world. Overall, this game didn't have great dungeons, but I loved its world, and it's one that I'd love to go back to and actually do 100%, I think. The main story isn't great in my opinion, but it's a very vibrant game that I actually do plan on picking up again to explore more of the side quests and the side material. I would place this game higher, but I wasn't really a fan of the overall game, and the only reason that I'd go back to this game would be from the overworld and side quests. A Link Between Worlds follows up to A Link to the Past with wall merging and dungeon flexibility, exclusively on the 3DS. One of the biggest replayability strengths of this game is that there is a non-linear dungeon order, so you're basically able to do anything in any order. I love this because what if the next time I play this game that I want to complete the Swamp Palace first or the Skull Woods? The renting system can be a huge pain, especially if you do die, but this game is easy enough for that not to happen often. This game would be much higher on my list if I flat out liked the game more. Don't kill me, please. Before my last video, I've actually only beaten it once and would only go back to it if I'm extremely bored. Once you've done the dungeons a few times, replay appeal fades. They aren't great in my opinion, but mechanically it was a very fun experience. The original Zelda that started it all, with open-ended exploration and dungeon variety. For the first Zelda game, it was actually very solid. It wasn't painfully difficult like Zelda 2, and had the freedom to tackle some dungeons in a different order, which makes repeat playthroughs fun. It isn't a long game whatsoever, and I would like to go back to it with no guide at all and see how long it would take me to beat. I also do plan on coming back to this game, playing the second quest. For the first Zelda game, this game has a lot to come back to, which is why it sits comfortably at 11. Skyward Sword is motion controlled and story driven. If I were to make this list in 2011, Skyward Sword would be much lower due to the motion controls alone. But the Switch release made this game much more replayable for me. The controls were completely fixed, which was the reason that I wasn't picking this game up as much earlier. It has some of the strongest Zelda dungeons that I love going back to every time, and also one of the more fun Zelda games to 100%. The Skykeep final dungeon is one of the most unique dungeons that I love just going through every time. The overworld doesn't really scream for me to return, and much of the backtracking can feel really tedious. I do believe that the boss rush mode was an indicator of this game's rather low replayability, but this is a Zelda game that I will continue to pick up when I'm bored and need to kill some time. Echoes of Wisdom is the first mainline Zelda game where you play as Zelda herself. The biggest replayability factor about this game is the use of the echo mechanic. It is by far one of my favorite Zelda mechanics in the series. Every playthrough can be different using the different echo mechanics to solve puzzles or defeat enemies. That is, if you don't spam the water block or flying tile, cough cough. Sure, the dungeons weren't great, but they finished very strong with both the Faron and Lanayru temples. This is actually one of the more fun 2D Zelda games, and I do plan on going back for the side quests alone in the future. The echo mechanic will also pull me in for more future playthroughs as well. I am exclusively going to talk about the Switch release of Link's Awakening, since honestly I don't plan on ever going back to the original. It's a very linear game with very solid dungeons. The main story is around 6 hours, and its short length makes it extremely easy to replay. Of course, due to its linear story, there's not many new ways to replay Link's Awakening each time, but I love this game, and it's a great game to play when you are bored. It's a game where the main story blows me away every single time I pick it up, and love to experience it repeatedly no matter how shocking or sad it gets. I enjoy revisiting this game casually and played the hell out of the Switch remake, which is why it sits at number 8. Breath of the Wild reinvented Zelda with an open world and physics-driven gameplay. I've replayed this game multiple times, choosing a different Divine Beast order every time. There are countless challenges in this game that make the replayability extremely strong. I've 100%ed this game about 4 times, so it's safe to say that I've played the hell out of this game. On top of everything, you can also use amiibos to customize Link for a new look or challenge. If I made this list back in 2017 or 18, Breath of the Wild would be number 1 on my list. However, with the release of Tears of the Kingdom, I personally don't revisit this game anymore. It's kind of sad really, because I loved playing this game so much and put so many hours into it. But I recently played through it again for a video and felt that the world was actually very empty and boring. Mostly because I kind of just played it out totally and explored everything already. I think that the Divine Beasts maybe get a little too much hate, but the story material really wasn't that great. That being said, one of the most replayable material in this game is the Trial of the Sword DLC and Master Mode, which allowed for a more challenging playthrough. This game is brilliant, guys, and I've put so many hours into it, but I personally don't revisit it anymore, and once you've explored everything, it kind of loses that replayability factor compared to the rest of the games on this list. But there's no denying that I've put so many hours into replaying this game. Tears of the Kingdom expands Breath of the Wild with new mechanics and both sky and depth exploration. It's a game that allows for so much creative freedom with how you play it. I haven't replayed this game nearly as much as Breath of the Wild, mainly due to the fact that it's basically the exact same world, and I already played the hell out of Breath of the Wild, and Tears of the Kingdom didn't really add enough to make me want to continue to replay the same world. In short, I was actually burnt out, to be honest. But if I were to choose right now which game to replay or just casually play again, I would choose Tears of the Kingdom every time. I think that the game is so large, so replaying feels like a huge time commitment. The story alone wasn't good enough to replay without any side quests in my opinion. Demon King? Secret Stones? That being said, it's a game that I of course plan on replaying again on the Switch too. Tears of the Kingdom had some of the highest story moments in the entire series that I get blown away every single time when I replay this game. The final boss in particular had one of the best themes and breathtaking atmosphere. I would never replay this game 100% again unless I absolutely had to, because it's the total definition of burnout. But I know that my brain will give me a reason to pick it up again. Wind Waker's cartoonish art style and open world make it such a unique experience. It's a game that I consider to be open world even though it technically isn't. Wind Waker is one of the Zelda games that aged so damn well through the years, and the cel-shaded graphics are enough to boost my mood every single time I replay it. One of the drawbacks to replaying Wind Waker, however, is the sailing. It can be rather slow and boring, but this is somewhat fixed with the swift sail in the HD remake. I would mention that the Triforce hunt is too long and that would be a drawback, but honestly, not only did they make the original Triforce hunt easier, but I personally think that it grew on me and actually prefer the original hunt because it makes me feel so much more accomplished by the end of it. If I made this list years ago, Wind Waker would be much lower from the Triforce hunt alone, but it is one of the best aged Zelda games that I absolutely love to go back to. My personal favorite Zelda game. Twilight Princess is a darker and more realistic 3D Zelda game with expansive dungeons. Now guys, I can write an essay about how much I love this game, but let's stick to replayability. Twilight Princess perhaps had the slowest start to any Zelda game and suffers from obvious pacing issues. Anytime I go back to this game, I'm never really excited about the Triforce Wolf Link segments or the long ass beginning. But Twilight Princess is a game that has so many things to go back to. The biggest replayability strength of this game are the dungeons, which I feel are the best dungeons in the series. The gameplay is also extremely smooth as Human Link, and let me just say this, if there's one area that I would like to experience for the first time again, it's Lake Hylia. Every single damn time I replay this game, I'm blown away walking into Lake Hylia for the first time, and it's one of the main things I look forward to in this game. Twilight Princess is a game that I often play over and over again, and I can't wait to play it again. Ocarina of Time defined 3D Zelda and remains a fan favorite. Sure, the original didn't age as good as the other Zelda games, especially the camera and the graphics, but Ocarina of Time had such a simple masterpiece of a story that's so easy and fun to experience again. Not too long ago, I actually just learned that the adult dungeons don't have to be played in a set order. So of course I went back after already playing this game a million times to do the water temple first, or the fire temple first, or to hear both versions of the fire temple theme, or to play the master quests, or to play the 3DS remake. You get the idea. There are countless reasons to replay Ocarina of Time, and sure, nostalgia is also a huge factor since this was my first Zelda game that I've ever played, so of course I'm gonna find reasons and continue to find reasons to play it. With randomizers too, this game just has so much trouble not to be played again. I'm not sure how replayable this game is if you've never grown up with it, but for me and so many others, it's well deserved in the top 3 of this list. If you were to ask me, what is my go-to comfort game? I would say without hesitation, this damn game. A Link to the Past is a timeless 2D Zelda with not one, but 2 worlds and unforgettable dungeons. I personally believe that A Link to the Past is the single best aged Zelda game that never gets boring to play. In fact, it is one of the most addicting Zelda games I've played. Every single time I pick up this game, I'm not able to put it down. It's actually kind of a problem. The beauty of A Link to the Past is actually not a long game, but feels long due to the length and the amount of Dark World dungeons. A Link to the Past is this high on my list, and I haven't even played the dungeons out of order yet. The dungeons, especially in this game, never get old because there's always something that I get stuck on and never feel completely confident about them, which is so damn satisfying after each playthrough once you beat them. Oh, let's not even mention the amount of secrets and side content like heart pieces, hidden caves, fairy fountains, or optional upgrades. Like, there's so much to chase on repeated runs. The only one drawback that I can maybe think of that affects this amazing game's replayability is this game's story, I guess. I mean, it's nothing too special that makes me want to experience it again, but I always love the challenge of getting my ass kicked while also somehow falling in love with every single playthrough. Hell, I feel like playing this game even just talking about it. but there's only one game that's slightly more replayable than A Link to the Past. The darkest Zelda game is also, in my opinion, the most replayable Zelda game. Majora's Mask is the Zelda where time is literally your biggest enemy. The 3-day cycle makes every playthrough feel different. You can focus on masks, side quests, or just the dungeons. There's always a reason for me to replay Majora's Mask. It's the shortest 3D Zelda, and it's always a cool challenge to complete the final boss without the fierce DD mask. The masks in this game are especially the reason why I keep going back to it, and I don't think I've ever had a more fun Zelda experience than collecting all of them. On replays, you might notice some very dark hidden details that you missed out on the first time. The Anjou Cafe side quest gets me every single time I replay this game, and somehow I keep going back to it. This game also is very open to challenge runs with each playthrough, like seeing how far you can get with one 3-day cycle, or minimal mask playthroughs. The dark, emotional atmosphere with themes of loss, grief, and impending doom hit differently as you age or go through new life experiences, making replays hit you in so many new ways. Majora's Mask also had my favorite dungeon of all time, the Stone Tower Temple, which is always a joy to replay, but it's kind of ironic because it had such a bad build-up, which isn't a joy to replay. That's actually the only weakness I can think of when it comes to this game's replayability. It may not be my favorite Zelda game, but it's always the most fun game to come back to. Also, the bunny hood, I love using it every single time, which makes this game so fun to play. So there you have it, every single Zelda game ranked by how replayable they are. Like I said at the start, this isn't about which ones are my absolute favorites, but which ones I'd actually want to pick up again after beating them. But of course, that's just my list. Now I want to hear yours. Which Zelda game do you find yourself replaying the most? And which ones do you think you'll never touch again? Let me know in the comments, and if you enjoyed this ranking, consider subscribing for more Zelda content. Thank you for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one.